9 o'clock and time for the Tuesday, May 3rd meeting of the Indian River County Board of County Commissioners. We're going to begin with an invocation by Reverend Shelley Sattendron of Our Savior Lutheran Church, which will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Mr. Joe Baird. Please rise.
Let us pray. Lord God, Creator of us all, we come to you at the beginning of this new day. We come to you with thanks for this day. We come to you with all of the tasks and events and decisions of this day before us, and we ask you to be in the midst of them and guiding them. And Lord God, I thank you for each person in this room, each person that is here and is united here out of care and concern and commitment for this place that we all live. So guide each one of us today, guide this meeting, and guide each of us throughout the day toward what is good, what is true, and what is right for all. We pray this in your name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you and good morning. Under additions and deletions to the agenda, emergency items, I believe there's at least one addition, and that's attorney's item, which will be 13-something. Anything else?
Move to approve the agenda as amended.
Second. A motion from Commissioner O'Brien, a second from Commissioner Davis. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Passes 5-0. Under proclamations and presentations, we're going to begin with a presentation of a proclamation designating May 1st through 7th as Public Service Recognition Week in Indian River County, and I'll present this to some of our most senior employees. Good morning, Mr. Sexton.
Good morning, Commissioners.
I'll wait a second for everybody to come on up.
You brought a bit of a crowd. Yep.
And all the people before us are people who have been employees for at least 20 years, Mr. Sexton?
At least 26. Everybody
26.
before you has been here at least 26 years.
Well, wonderful. It's my great pleasure and honor then to read this proclamation designated May 1st through 7th, 2011, as Public Service Recognition Week in Indian River County. Whereas public employees at the federal, state, and local levels conduct the public's business and perform essential services, and whereas public employees improve our quality of life through their efforts in many fields, including education, emergency management, public safety, transportation, natural resources, health, and natural defense, and whereas public employees dedicate themselves to the continuous improvement of the quality of life for Floridians, and many, including military personnel, police officers, firefighters, healthcare practitioners, and others, risk their lives every day in public service. And whereas the efficiency and effectiveness of government depends on public employees ensuring government services are accessible and responsive to the diverse needs of residents. And whereas the Indian River County Board of County Commissioners recognizes the dedication, talents, and contributions made by public employees working in all levels of government. And whereas the Indian River County Board of County Commissioners appreciates the dedication, talents, and contributions of county employees who, by the example of their achievements, are focusing on the highest standards of customer service. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Indian River County, Florida, that the week of May 1st through 7th, 2011, be observed as Public Service Recognition Week, and encourage all Indian River County residents to recognize the men and women who serve at all levels of government for the betterment of our county, nation, and state, adopted this 3rd day of May 2011 and signed by all 5 members of the Board of County Commissioners. Mr. Sexton.
Thank you, Commissioners, for recognizing those in public service by designating this week as Public Service Recognition Week. My name is Jim Sexton. I'm the Human Resources Director here at Indian River County. And to accept the proclamation on behalf of public service employees that have dedicated their careers to serving the citizens of Indian River County, I have invited a cross-section of the county's most tenured employees. Many employees were unable to leave their posts this morning to attend, but we are thankful some could attend. Before you are employees representing emergency services, utilities, parks, road and bridge, facilities management, vehicle maintenance, code enforcement, the mailroom, planning, and administration. Every employee standing before you has over 26 years of service with the Indian River County. Now, this is not everyone with longevity here at the county. To invite everybody, we would have had to shut down government for a day, because out of the 723 full-time employees currently at Indian River County, 205 of them have over 20 years of dedicated service to the county. So obviously, without shutting it down, we couldn't have them all here, so we did invite a cross-section to come here. Now, often we hear the term government and think about a big machine, but in actuality, government is made up of people performing their functions, whether it be providing public safety, treating our drinking water and making it safe and tasty for consumption, designing, building, and maintaining the roads and bridges we drive on, keeping our parks maintained and ready for recreational opportunities, planning our community, enforcing the codes, or performing necessary administrative functions that make it all happen. The dedicated public service workers carry out those duties, which is government in action. So on behalf of all the public service workers here today, I would like to thank you again, Commissioners, for recognizing this week as Public Service Recognition Week, and I encourage all citizens to recognize the men and women that serve in all levels of government and thank them for their service for the betterment of Indian River County. So thank you, Commissioners.
Mr. Sexton, thank you very much. And on behalf of all the Commissioners, I'd like to thank all our great employees. It's an honor working with all of you. It's absolutely the case, and everybody who knows me and my work in the county knows I love working here. And the reason is because all the county workers do such a great job. Before the meeting, we were talking about A1 Wally issue a little bit, which we can talk about since we already voted on it. But we wanted to say that was a great example for the citizens of Indian River County. They saw government at work, and government performed very well. And that was because of the work that all you did in preparation for that meeting, during the course of that meeting, and making sure that the county commissioners were prepared to do what they had to do that day. So for all the work you do, not only making my job great, but for all the residents of Indian River County, I'd like to thank you and good service. Anybody else got to say anything?
Yeah, I'd like, as I look out and see so many faces, that you are the go-to guys. I mean, anytime that I can just think of the emails and the phone calls, and whenever something happens, you're the person that we call. And it takes a special kind of person to be a public servant as you are. First of all, just to know that what you make in your salary is public information and is open to the world to see. That in and of itself is difficult for some people. In addition to that, as we know, that you don't get calls very often unless it's something wrong. I mean, that's very seldom do you get that, boy, I just want to thank you for getting that permit done, it went easy. Or you know, I have no problem at recreation. I mean, it just doesn't seem to work that way. It's always, you know, it's the complaints that we seem to handle and to deal with. And all of our employees are special people to be able to put themselves in that environment on a daily basis and hold themselves up to public scrutiny, and I just want to say thank you also.
Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Witter?
Yeah, I just like, you know, I talked to a lot of county employees over the years, and invariably people complain about their job and complain about things they do and work environment from time to time, but I know in the past, almost everybody I've talked to that's gone away to a seminar or a class or something where they've interacted with other governments come back and say, wow, I'm sure glad I work in Indian River County. And that's a direct result of the work and the camaraderie and the things that all of you do. So you make this a good place to work. And I think Indian River County is a cut above. And it's primarily because of the staff and the employees from Joe Baird all the way down through all of you that really are dedicated and give of your time. And you're honest, you're above board, and you're objective. And that's important. So I want to thank you also.
Commissioner Hushman?
Well, look at this presentation. Jim, I don't know if you did the math. This represents 350 to 400 years of service to Indian River County. Thank you all for your dedication. I know many of you, just about all of you, by first name. It's a pleasure, a privilege to be able to call you on the telephone to see you out serving the community and getting the right answer. Getting the answer that folks are depending upon us to get, but we rely upon you to get the true answer. And you all are our valuable veterans. Not taking away from anybody who is newly hired, but there's something special about a valuable veteran. And you all today have been recognized as our valuable veterans. Thank you.
Commissioner O'Brien?
Well, for the sake of getting you all back to work, I'll just say ditto. Especially since Jim started talking about shutting down government, I got a little worried there. So, we're going to get you all back doing what you all do best. But more importantly, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for all your work, your service, your commitment to the community. Just want to say thanks.
Mr. Sexton, you want to come up for a picture?
Can I say something? I'd like to say that I'd put Indian River County employees, I think they're, if not the top in the nation, one of the top in the nation as far as doing public service and work. And I think we saw that during the hurricane, and I'm extremely proud, and I'd like to thank all the employees for everything they do for the citizens and all the hard work you've done over the years. I don't think many counties can be as proud as we can be, because you guys do a fabulous job, and thank you very much.
I'll let you accept this on behalf of the employees. Give it to Mr. Sexton.
So when you have it.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Hey, that's going good to see you.
Yeah, we're going to need this.
No hugging. Come on. I don't know. You guys have no Italian in you at all.
Remember short sleeve dress. Now that it's 90 degrees.
You know what?
100% humidity.
Now you're talking.
Yeah.
Wow. No, then you want something in mosquito.
Oh, let it get September. You look good.
Who's got a cane?
Tank top is
Somebody put the camera back.
It's all the way back there.
Wide angle.
Oh, okay. Okay. I thought it was
Let's go to you, Gary. We need the wide angle.
Glare up your forehead.
Next up, we have the presentation of a proclamation honoring Dane Wilson for attaining the rank of Eagle Scout. Dane, and this is going to be read by Commissioner Fletcher.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the opportunity. I have the honor and privilege of presenting this young man, as tall as he stands, as an Eagle Scout with his proclamation. Dan, did you bring anybody else today?
I brought my mom and my sister.
Well, if you'd like them to stand with you, please invite them. Thank you. Come on up to the podium. You may need your support. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. It gives me great honor and privilege. I think it was 2 weeks ago, Commissioner Davis said he admittedly read a proclamation that when he read it at first he didn't get it. Well, I'll admit I didn't get it either, but then we did get it. And this is one of those proclamations that is easy to get because of what you've done. And I truly appreciate it. I just want to throw a couple of facts that folks may not be aware of. This young man is now a young man, an Eagle Scout. And it takes many years, a lot of merit badges, a lot of commitment, a lot of understanding, a lot of service to the community, and a lot of citizenship.
and a lot of long hours, and I truly appreciate that. But more importantly is that look at who is an Eagle Scout. 26 out of your 29 first astronauts were Eagle Scouts. Some of the employees that were present here with years of experience were Eagle Scouts. The leaders of the United States, Eagle Scouts. Many individuals in our service academies were Eagle Scouts, are Eagle Scouts. I shouldn't say were. Once you're an Eagle Scout, you're stuck. It's an obligation. You earned it. So I truly appreciate it. What I'm driving at is that an Eagle Scout represents someone with drive, commitment, ability, knowledge, and discipline. And at the end of that is a commitment. Everyone is expecting you to continue on. So, without further ado, let me present your proclamation. This proclamation is honoring Dane Wilson for attaining the rank of Eagle Scout. Whereas, having completed the requirements for and having been examined by the Eagle Scout Board of Review, Dane Wilson earned the rank of Eagle Scout, the highest form of recognition in the Boy Scouts of America program. Its attainment represents a significant accomplishment, as fewer than 4 out of 100 Scouts earn this coveted award. And whereas Dane Wilson has been a committed participant of the Boy Scouts of America program consecutively for 10 years, starting at the very first rank at Cub Scout Pack 530, and earned the Arrow of Light, the highest recognition of Cub Scouts. And whereas he valued his membership in Boy Scout Troop 567, earning 27 merit badges, camping 57 nights, hiking over 100 miles, accomplishing over 100 hours in service, completing the 85-mile Philmont hike. Wow. Held a variety of leadership positions, earned the World Conservation Award, and is a dedicated young man who has earned the respect and admiration of his fellow Scouts through his active participation in many programs sponsored by the Boy Scouts of America. Whereas Dane Wilson contributed his leadership skills through the Eagle Scout Community Service Project in improving a unique native island at the county's Round Island Park. And whereas Dane has exhibited a commitment to the scouting principles while participating in such other community activities such as the Church of Vero Beach High School varsity swim team, Congressional Award Program, Indian River Medical Center volunteer, American Red Cross lifeguard, first aid, and CPR certification, and demonstrates his personal belief to strive for success in all areas of his life. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Indian River County that the Board recognizes the accomplishments of Dane Wilson and honors him with his achievement, adopted this 3rd day of May 2011, signed by all 5 county commissioners. Dane, it's a privilege and honor to be able to present you with this proclamation. Before you speak, I know you have wanted an opportunity to speak, and I'd like that, but I'd also like to give you another plaque that I've given every Eagle Scout that I've attended to see their project and also their ceremony. And it simply states, congratulations on Dane Wilson's achievement of Eagle Scout. I congratulate you on becoming a member of a select group that has included some of the greatest leaders and innovators of the United States of America. I admire you for having demonstrated an exemplary commitment to personal excellence. I encourage you to use those hard-earned wings to soar with confidence and valor to the future. As a citizen of the United States and a longtime public servant of Indian River County, I simply say thank you for your courage and dedication.
Thank you.
Dane?
I'd just like to thank you for recognizing my achievement in earning the Eagle Scout Award and for my community service project. My project involved leading a team of volunteers to renovate the native park, which is the county park, Round Island Park. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all the people that helped to make my Eagle Scout project a success. I'd like to thank my sponsors, my fellow scouts and volunteers that came out and made my Eagle Scout project a success. And I'd give special thanks to my Scoutmaster, Mike Hollers, and to my mother, Diane Olson. She was a big motivator and gave me a lot of support. And I also extend a special invitation to the commissioners to attend my Eagles ceremony in June.
And we look forward to that, Dane. We really do. I know I will be there in attendance and attended your project, and I invite the commissioners to visit Round Island, the improvement that you made, that, it simply stated that you put benches there. Well, those benches could probably withstand a Cat 4 hurricane. Dane went all out on that project, restained the exhibit, and just upgraded the whole area and improved the trail. And I think that this young man's got it, because that was one of his favorite spots, and he knows that that is a draw for tourism, and it is also returning back to his community. And I just want to say thank you, because it would have cost us a lot more money than it cost you in nearly 240, 250 hours of labor with all of the other scouts that helped you with this project. Thank you.
And if I would, I'd like to say a couple words. Congratulations. My brother was an Eagle Scout, and he was the successful one in the family. This is a great first step up. I mean, the maturity and the focus necessary to get an Eagle Scout award is tremendous, so it bodes well for your future. But I'd also like to say in a little broader sense that a lot of times we see the kids with the tattoos and cigarettes, while the kids getting the Eagle Scouts awards are inside or on Round Island Park or doing other things. And one of the things about this job is it gives us an ability to see more of the good kids who are doing the right things and maturing the right way. And so knowing that you just got an Eagle Scout award, that Commissioner Fletcher's son is at the Air Force Academy, that a lot of other of our young men and women are engaged in great studies, it makes me feel great about the future of America. And America will be better than it has been because of your efforts in the next two generations. So I want to thank you today in advance for the work you're going to do over the next 50 years. Thank you. Anybody else care to say anything?
I just want to ask, where is the ceremony and what's the date and time?
We'll get that information to you.
Okay. Thank you.
I'll send you guys an email.
Thank you very much. Congratulations. 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 I can mention this. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you. I know so proud of him.
Dane?
Thank you very much.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. And we expect to see this prominently displayed in your executive office one day. Now, if you look hard, you'll see them in some doctor's office and attorney's office as well.
Attorney?
Maybe just a select few, okay? Dane Slater, and then over here for a picture. And Mom, would you like to have a picture with your
No, it's okay.
son?
Yeah. Come on, Diane. Okay.
One with, one without.
Yeah.
Here, Dane's still in front of me. I need a step ladder to get him up.
So I moved to the project, I said, where's your boy?
Good job.
Nice job. Thank you.
We next have the presentation of a proclamation honoring Louise Hubbard. Good morning, Louise. Come on up. Well, you come up too, Louise. You're not getting the proclamation if you don't come up to the podium.
Being escorted by Mrs. Clark.
Louise also has a very large group with her today, and that's a good sign. So this is a proclamation honoring Louise Hubbard. Whereas Louise Hubbard has been Executive Director of the Treasure Coast Homeless Services Council, Inc. since its establishment in 2000 as a result of an Indian River County Task Force on Homelessness. And whereas Louise Hubbard has successfully managed the establishment of the council as a HUD continuum of care, which includes Indian River County, St. Lucie County, and Martin County, with a membership of more than 65 participating service agencies. And whereas in the last 10 years, Louise Hubbard's grant writing and administrative skills have brought more than $16 million in federal and state grant funds to the council and the continuing community, resulting in her being recognized by the Department of Housing and Urban Development for her grant writing and management expertise. And whereas during the past year, Louise Hubbard has successfully managed the council's $2,587,977 share of federal stimulus funds to place 186 homeless households in permanent housing and to prevent homelessness of 1,351 additional households. The council's partnership with the county under the Neighborhood Stabilization 1 program to purchase and rehabilitate 14 foreclosed vacant homes in Indian River County, and the council's free mortgage foreclosure prevention program, which avoided foreclosure of 75 Indian River County middle-income households. And whereas Louise Hubbard annually obtains funds, currently $562,382, to house 119 severely disabled individuals in fair market rental apartments in Indian River County. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Indian River County that the Board expresses its deep appreciation for the services performed on behalf of the homeless and indigent of Indian River County by Louise Hubbard, Executive Director of the Treasure Coast Homeless Services Council, Inc., adopted this 3rd day of May, 2011, and signed by all 5 members of the Board of County Commissioners. Good morning, Louise.
Good morning, Mr. Solari.
Now, you're not going to tell me you're going to be shy and not have a few words to say this morning.
Mr. Stark will have all there is to say.
Mr. Stark.
I'm Dick Stark, the chairman of the Treasure Coast Homeless Services Council, and stay right here. and Louise asked me to speak on her behalf to thank the Board of County Commissioners for this very generous and impressive proclamation. Her asking me to do this reflects her strong belief that the great success of our council is really the work of many people, including her staff, members of the council, the charitable foundations and generous donors, and of course the county itself. It's her view that all these elements should share in this honor. And it's hard to argue with this view, and so I thank you on behalf of all of these people. Still, we know that Louise is the spark plug that has made this thing really work. Speaking of the people who should share in this recognition, I'm pleased to report that there are some 30 or more people here who are members of the council or staff or other related organizations, and they came to help honor Louise on this lovely occasion. It would take too much of your time for me to read all the names of these people and their affiliations, but I've given to the chairman a list of the people we expected to come. I would ask the board's indulgence to while I make one other point which has really been made before, and namely that is the important involvement of the county in the work of the council. Indeed, the council is, as was pointed out in the proclamation, a creature of the county resulting from a task force in the years 1999 and 2000. And following that, the county board has also made contributions for the maintenance of the council every year. In addition, the members of the county staff have participated constructively in various aspects of the county's work over the years, and we appreciate this cooperation that is so essential to the work of our council and much to the benefit of the homeless and indigent in our community. Joe Barrett, County Administrator, has been quoted often as saying that if we didn't do what we do, then the county would be under considerably greater pressure to do much more in regard to the homeless. So Louise and our council say thank you to the Board of County Commissioners and to all our supporters here and for their participation and support of the very worthwhile work in ameliorating the pain and suffering of the homeless and indigent in our county. So Louise, congratulations and thank you.
You have the supporters stand up.
Before Louise actually comes up to get the proclamation, I'd like to say a couple words, or a few words, including the fact that Louise's work with the 65 participating agencies is another one of those things which makes the Treasure Coast a great place to live. And it's also a great opportunity for me on behalf of the Board of County Commissioners to say thank you not only to Louise, but for every member of those 65 other participating agencies. And for those who are aware of National Stabilization 1, there are words I can't use to describe the way the government brought this down on us. And it was a very convoluted, difficult process to spend federal tax dollars. And it was only through the efforts of some members of the county staff, including members sitting here like Bob Keating, but it's almost heroic efforts by Louise Hubbard that we were actually able to get these dollars and use them, and most importantly, for the benefit of those less fortunate than us. I mean, one of the things Louise has been able to do is, despite all of the administrative and bureaucratic details and hurdles that she has to overcome, is never lose focus of those people who she and those 65 participating agencies serve. And that is the single most important thing, at least in my view, of that job. So again, Louise, thank you very much. And you either speak now or come up and pick up the proclamation, your choice.
I know that there are other people here besides me who've, since day one, really stayed the course for no good reason other than because it was the right thing to do. And that includes Dr. Woodley and also Vern Melvin from DCF, other people besides agency providers, state officials as well, who knew that there was, City of Port St. Lucie's here, who knew that there was really no other way to do this, and it wasn't fun. That's for sure.
Anybody else want to say anything?
Well, phenomenal job. Louise, you do a phenomenal job, and it's a pleasure to serve on the board with you. And it's also more heartwarming to see that it looks like you have a quorum. You could have held a meeting today to see everyone take time out from their day to come to support you as you've received this recognition. And it may not be an easy job. It may not be a fun job. And you are very dedicated. That's a light word to say. But you make it fun to work, and maybe that's why you have so many people that are willing to take their time to meet and work so hard as the gladiator that you are. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to put up a picture. Thank you very much. You want a picture with all? Hey, seriously, do I?
Do we have to do this, Jim?
Just,
No. Take a...
okay, then turn around and take a picture with just you and Mr. Stark.
Yeah. You guys want to...
Come on up. Come on up. Mr. Stark, come on down.
Your team has spoken. Finally, smile. You don't want to see the other end of the spectrum. Thank you. Good job. Thank you.
Rowdy crowd. We're going to
See the meetings.
It's clear that they're here for Louise and not the county commission, so we're going to give them a minute to clear out.
Okay, getting ready.
I guess there's not much more on the agenda.
No, we should be able to get through the rest of the meeting pretty quickly.
I think that's a record for a proclamation, Mr. Chairman.
It may well be a large group number and a rowdy crowd, particularly rowdy for this time of the morning.
That's why we have the sheriff here.
Yeah, well, a couple more outbursts like that, I would have to ask him to step in.
Get in this,
I move approval of the minutes, March 22nd.
We have a motion to approve from Commissioner Wheeler, a second from Commissioner Fleischer. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Under information items, there's one which Commissioner O'Brien would like to discuss.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item 7B, this is a letter of appreciation from the Treasure and Space Coast radio stations. The county was a participant in the second annual shopping cart parade and food drive to benefit the Harvest Food and Outreach Center. And just so you know, the event raised over 9,800 pounds of food that is then used by the Harvest Center for families that are struggling. They can buy the food at a discount. And I wanted to thank Paul Klubeck with the Go Line. He did the heavy lifting on this project. I don't know if you all had a chance to see the cart. We had it out here in the lobby for a while, but it was a cutout of a Go Line bus and then a picture of each commissioner waving out the windows and the trusty chairman here driving the bus. And Paul did an awful lot of work to put that together. He was there at 6 o'clock in the morning getting set up, and so I wanted to thank Paul, also Karen Deagle with the Go Line, and all 5 county commissioner wives participated in organizing this, and kind of, we voted to do it and turn it over to them, and they took the ball and ran with it. And last, I'd like to thank all the employees. We raised over 2 full shopping carts of food for this effort, so I just want to thank all the employees and many of the people from the public that came in and put food in the cart for this worthy cause. And lastly, I think Commissioner Fleischer will support me on this. I don't think we ever want Chairman Slattery to really drive a real bus. We were the only shopping cart to get a ticket for speeding during the event, and so it's enough to have him push the fake bus around but not drive a real one. So, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I don't know, that's you and the sheriff who complained about my fast driving.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, Commissioner O'Brien. Move on to the consent agenda. Does anybody wish to have anything pulled? If not, I'd like to pull 8H. I'll accept the motion to approve the consent agenda. Second. It's a motion to approve as amended by Commissioner Fleischer, second from Commissioner Davis. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes 5-0. 8H, the only item pulled, and the reason I pulled it was because there's one item on this miscellaneous budget amendment which I just thought needed a little more clarification for the public. Jason Brown's here, and Jason, it's number 2, which is the Senior Resource Association of Community Care. I'll explain a little bit about why I just wanted to pull and discuss a little bit more, and then let anybody else who wants to speak. This item deals with, and again, this is one of those bureaucratic things, so I'm going to probably get some elements wrong, but basically part of the Adult Protective Services Agency from the state, which I guess gives grants and has some local people do some of the work for them. In this case, it's the Senior Resource Association. The initial grant was for $387,277, and the county was responsible for 10% of that, which it gave. Because of the times, basically, the Senior Resource Association needed additional funds and is now seeking $54,049 additional dollars from the county to provide the services that they are mandated to provide by the state. They had gone to the state and asked the state for more funds, and evidently the state was out of money. So, in my mind, this is basically a supplement which the county is responsible for funding fully, and it's in the nature to me of of an unfunded mandate from the county. And while no particular problem with it this year, it's the type of thing that if it were to come, I'd like us to tell the county, I mean the state, that listen, we can't afford this next year. We're cutting, for instance, children's services, very possibly, which we discussed at this board, and to, during the course of a budget year, suddenly get another $50,000 this week, $100,000 next week, mandated by the state, I think is poor government and unacceptable in these times. But those are my comments. Commissioner Willett?
The only thing I'd like to maybe clarify what you said, or punch it a little bit, but, you know, the thing that bothers me about this is the fact that we're paying for it, but they're making the rules. So we have additional bureaucracy and bureaucratic hodgepodge that they demand, and then they tell us we got to pay for it. If we're going to pay for it, we ought to be making the rules and not them.
And I agree with that. And again, it's the service that's provided, especially in these times, I'm happy to say is absolutely needed, and thank the people from the Senior Resource Association for providing it. I just have a real problem with the way some of our other governments push this down our throat. So, having said my piece, I'll entertain the motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve item 8H.
Mr. Chairman?
We have a motion to approve from Commissioner O'Brien, a second from Commissioner Fletcher, discussion from Commissioner Davis.
I appreciate everything that you've just said and Commissioner Wheeler said, and by approving this, it's almost like we're accepting it. And of course, we really have don't have much of a choice, I believe, when we look at it, but just to approve it and then not try to follow up with something.
Well, I did ask the Senior Resource Association for some other information on it, and I'll continue that. And it's the type of, I asked them for the other information so that I could get together a packet over time to give to our delegation next year and say, listen, this is unacceptable. And last year, quite frankly, Representative Mayfield asked for good examples of unfunded mandates, and she was very forthcoming and expressed a great desire to help us with that, which I tremendously appreciate. And I'll be able to go with, after fine-tuning this a little bit with the help of the Senior Resource Association, we'll be able to go to her and say, listen, this is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Our budget's done, and these are tight times. And in the middle of our year, you're saying to us, the state is saying to us, well, either you come up with another $50,000 or these people suffer. And I think the way the state does some things sometimes, and we may be guilty of it too, but the state seems to be...
we don't bother us like the state does.
Exactly.
Yes.
We're used to each other. But it's not a good way of going forward.
And that was I just didn't want to approve this today and then, us vent and then not do anything.
Absolutely. I think we're getting more and more aggressive.
Okay. And so if you would like, in fact, I would like to see this as being the official, the beginning of an official list.
Yeah, we'll put it on the list of the mandates. We're making a list again for this year and for next year.
And this is a different mandate because it's a mandate in the middle of the year that basically, I mean, this isn't like the next budget year where the state says, okay, this is what we're going to fund, so you have to fund the rest. This is already in the middle of the year, and I'm saying no other department, I don't think, would be able to get away with this, is what I'm getting at.
We have a lot of that throughout the year where the state runs out of money and we keep funding things.
Those are on the top of the mandate list.
Yeah. We will.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Davis. Commissioner Fletcher?
Mr. Chairman, you pulled item 8H, and I just wanted to bring attention to item 8H4. I just wanted to thank Mike Cito and David Fleetwood, Mike Redstone, and Joe for finding the money. It's a very much needed project, and just as well as the Gifford Progressive League. We're going to get that all changed, and that'll start in short order. I guess David's in the room. He's hearing it.
Yeah, the playground equipment we're putting in all of it because it's broken and no one can play on. And the Gifford Progressive and the Gifford Park. We will be putting that in immediately.
And they'll start post-haste.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other comments? If not, we'll take a vote on this item, which was a motion from Commissioner O'Brien to accept 8H, seconded by Commissioner Fletcher. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much, gentlemen. We go on to community development, condemnation, demolition, and removal of unsafe structures. Page 97 on your agenda, and Mr. Keating is coming up to help present this item. Good morning, Bob.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Jose Granch, the County Building Director, will present this item.
Good morning, Jose.
Morning, Jose.
Good morning, Jose Guanche, building official. There are two properties that are on the agenda to be demolished. One is a property that has been built. It is a block structure, went only up to tie beam, was never filled with concrete, and it is actually falling apart right now. This property is adjacent, real close to the high school, and it really poses a severe threat to the local community there. This thing is actually, if we get strong hurricane winds or even a strong storm, will collapse. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Already the front portion of it, the entryway has collapsed into the structure itself, and part of the garage has also started to collapse. The other property is a property that we've received multiple complaints on. It's actually an addition to a structure that's there, which is really falling apart. Basically, it's coming down on its own. It's unsafe, and we've had multiple requests from the local community to take action on this. And those are basically the two structures that we're talking about this morning.
Thank you, Jose. Any questions from the commissioners?
Mr. Chairman?
Davis.
Yes. Without going through the expenses of the title work, it'd be interesting to see where we would be after we get finished with this and then the lien. At least going into it with our eyes wide open about, okay, we understand we're probably going to be foreclosed out, but the health, safety, and welfare issue to the neighbors is worth it to go ahead and move forward and be honest with the taxpayers. We're going to lose money when we do this because we're not getting it back through the lien process. I guess they'd call it a pencil search, but even a pencil search would be one of those things that I think it'd be good for us to know up here as we move forward with these things.
Agreed. Alan, do you think that's going to do that?
This is the same issue we faced on Gifford Gardens as well, only on a larger scale on that project.
Right.
I agree with Commissioner Davis. It'd be good just if we went in knowing that information. Okay. You going to make that?
I'll move to, yes, I'll move to approve, but on this, go ahead, I would like to know where it's going to be and try to make that a part of what we do from this point forth. Each one of the commissioners could do it, but if I were putting together an end of it, for the agenda item, just say there was a mortgage recorded, that this would be, our lien would be junior to that mortgage, or...
There's a motion from Commissioner Davis, Commissioner Fletcher has seconded it. Any other discussion? I'll take the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. Thank you, Jose and Bob.
Thank you.
Under 12G, Office of Management and Budget, we've got County Movie Showcase Program Agreement with CGI Communications, Inc. Good morning, Jason. Is Scott going to lead the presentation? Or are you?
Thank you. Commissioner Solari, I'm going to start out, and he's going to do the technical stuff.
Wonderful.
As I'm not qualified to do that. For the record, Jason Brown, County Budget Director. What we have today is an agreement with CGI Communications Incorporated. They have partnered with the National Association of Counties and are providing a service that will provide various multimedia services to the county. They've done this with numerous counties and cities throughout the country so far. We've got a little presentation Scott's going to show you. The types of things you can do. They'll make these promotional videos that can be displayed on the county's website, on the county's TV channel, and the service is provided for free. How do they fund that service? They have local advertising partners that get to have a little icon displayed around the perimeter of the videos when they're played, and that is how they fund this operation, how they're able to provide it at no cost to the county. I've got some examples of that coming up for you. They do have in the agreement, there is a provision the county has the ability to control the types of advertising on there. Like I said, it's only local advertisers. They also prohibit certain types of uses like liquor stores, adult bookstores, so there won't be things like that advertising on there, and the county gets final say as far as any advertisers allowed on the site, because we don't want anything that would negatively adversely impact the county, something that would be questionable. There is also the ability to have a disclaimer that says that the county's not endorsing these advertisers or anything like that. We've inquired on that, and we can do that. So that being said, I'll turn over to Scott, who's going to kind of walk you through and show you an example of a couple of the other counties' websites and what they have.
You can turn your light on there. There you
I
go.
want to make one point, that these videos would not be housed on our servers. They would not be on our website. We would simply link to them. So these advertisements would not be anywhere on our website or our servers, nor would they use any of our resources as far as bandwidth and such. So this is an example of a video.
Hi, I'm Jim Matthews. I'm chairman of the Montgomery County Board of Commissioners. Montgomery County is the third largest county in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, but we're number one in manufacturing jobs while sustaining a charming rural and suburban lifestyle. In fact, Forbes magazine says we're one of the 10 best places in the United States to raise a family. We are one of the 20 wealthiest counties in the United States of America, and it shows in the caliber of our public services, our open space, our trails, and our historic sites. But we're always looking to improve through our transportation programs, to mitigate traffic problems, to spur economic development, and to acquire more open space while preserving our farmlands and our agricultural industry. I want you to see that Montgomery County is the place for you.
See over here, they have an example of the different kinds of videos that we can create. Now, these are up to us, and their production company would be working with us to script out these movies, get people we want involved actually in the movies. I'll just play another one here for some public.
In Montgomery County, we know how important the health and safety of you and your family is, and we want you to know it's our first priority as well. The Department of Public Safety is at the core of these efforts and oversees the coordination of emergency response and a state-of-the-art training campus for local police and firefighters. We've also partnered with the surrounding counties in southeastern Pennsylvania to provide the Ready Notify system for our residents. Go to ReadyNotifyPA.org to sign up to receive emails or text messages to cell phones, pagers, or any text-enabled device in the event of an emergency. In addition, we provide every school in Montgomery County with a system whereby administrators can immediately and discreetly notify emergency dispatchers to a problem with a push of a wireless button. The countywide law enforcement alerting and safety system, or CLASS as we call it, is designed to protect the most precious resource any of us has, our children.
This is an example of what it would actually look like on our website. If you look down here, this is what the tour book introduction looks like. I think we have 10 videos that we're allowed to have, and the topics of those videos are up to us. Say economic development, introduction to the county, tourism, whatever we want. So, show you an example of how it would work from an actual website. Here you see the advertisements surrounding the video.
Hello, and welcome to Dauphin County, Pennsylvania. Come and see what makes Dauphin County the perfect place to live, work, and play.
We invite you to watch the following videos highlighting our vibrant and dynamic county.
Since 1785, Dauphin County has developed into a center for business, tourism, and state government. Home to the capital city, over 256,000 residents have chosen to make Dauphin their home. We're proud of our rich heritage and continue to be a place for young and old, adventurous types, and those who wish to relax. The county is close to the major markets of Philadelphia, New York City, and Washington, D.C., yet maintains the serene beauty of its picturesque parks and rolling hills along the banks of the Susquehanna River. Come and see what this dynamic county has to offer, from the sweetest place on earth in Hershey to the scenic Susquehanna River Valley. Welcome to Dauphin County.
With that, we'll open it up for questions.
Well, right off the bat, it's clear to see that these counties have nothing on the Indian River, so.
Yeah.
cooler weather.
Mr. Chair. I said it on the conference call when this was first proposed to us, and it seems like a great opportunity for the county. The CGI is only going to do 10 counties in each state under this program, and so we're in line to be one of those 10. I think Scott and Jason mentioned that they will write the entire script, but we have final approval over the script. Then they'll come in and they'll do all the filming, the editing, and then put it on the website, and again, we get final approval before anything goes out. In addition, they'll also provide us up to 5 minutes per month of additional airtime. So, I envision like during the season, and we're out there at, say, the Under the Oaks Art Show, and we do a little 5-minute kind of a YouTube thing, and say, hey, the weather's great, it's snowing up north, come on down to Indian River County. Sure. And so I see it as a great opportunity. The advertising, as mentioned, was that we can have a block list for inappropriate advertising. In addition, those little icons you saw in there don't pop up automatically like some websites do, which I hate personally. You have to actually go to that icon and click on it to open the link to the business. Okay. And then they will also help the business do a little movie spot to help promote the business. So I think it's a great program, and with that, I'd go ahead and make a motion that we move forward with the agreement and with CGI.
A motion from Commissioner O'Brien. I'll go ahead and second it. Any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to mention the notion of blocking advertisers or choosing or selecting advertisers starts implicating First Amendment rights, and you may find yourself with a bit of an issue down the road if we get into that. I don't think it's a sufficient reason at this point not to go forward. I think the benefits outweigh the risk, but I just want you to go in, again, with your eyes open that there are First Amendment implications on this advertising situation.
I just want to make a quick point that the advertising is not on our website, which is why I made that point, because it would be CGI declining an advertiser, not the county.
I hear the argument.
Any other comments from commissioners?
Since the future.
All right, we have a motion from Commissioner O'Brien, a second by myself. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Scott, and thank you, Jason. Next up, Public Works, staff update on Sector 3 beach renourishment. Good morning, Mr. Gray. Good morning.
Good morning. For the record, James Gray, County Coastal Engineer. This update on Sector 3 complements the email that was sent out earlier with the Commission summary. Golden Sands Beach Park, park that was closed for the majority of the Sector 3 Phase 2 project is now reopened. Treasure Shores Park, we expect will reopen prior to May 4th. We're currently on hiatus right now. The project has been suspended due to sea turtle nesting, which the main part of sea turtle nesting begins May 1st, and without any extensions, April 30th was our last day of sand hauling, as well as placing material on the beach. As of April 30th, the contractor placed approximately 180,000 cubic yards, or about 64% of the total Phase 2 280,000 yards required to complete the project. Over the last 2 weeks, from April 18th through the 30th, the contractor actually was able to haul about 42,500 yards, cubic yards to the beach. As far as the total Phase 2 shoreline, it comprises about 14,000 linear feet of beach. As of April 30th, the contractor fully completed about 7,500 of those 14,000 feet, representing about almost 54% of the Phase 2 project area fully completed, and that comprises of the dunes, berm, and beach feature. So we're over 50%. That was a pretty good showing for this year. Over the last 2 weeks, April 18th through the 30th, the contractor was able to construct 1,500 feet. Over the last couple of weeks, we've mentioned that the northern 6,500 feet of the project area was going to be incomplete for a couple of reasons. Obviously, sand quantities, timing, schedule, relative to sea turtle nesting, and so forth. So the areas of incomplete project area are identified here in red, the red arrow. The Seaview development south, probably approximately 500, 600 feet south of Treasure Shores Park, are areas of the beach that has been incompleted this construction season. And the dark green line shows the complete section, 7,500 feet, which essentially is a little bit north of Windsor, south into Orchid. It comprises that Phase 2 project area. So the total Sector 3 project area goes from a little bit south of Treasure Shores Park all the way into northern Johns Island as far as a 100% complete project. Over the next week, the contractor will be finishing up the restoration of the beach parks. There's a little bit of asphalt damage that Ranger is going to repair at Golden Sands Park and Treasure Shores Park, as well as we'll be planting the newly constructed dunes with a mixture of various dune grasses. Majority is sea oaks, and that represents about 100,000 plants will be put in this week along the newly constructed dunes. That concludes the update.
Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Gray? I don't think
I have a question for Mr. Plackridge, though, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Aaron, I know you'd sent a letter to Ranger and the bond company a month or so ago, giving indication that Ranger may be in violation of the contract, whatever wording is. Do we need to take any action now just to maintain our place now that the contract period for the construction work has expired? I know we still want to keep working with Ranger, but is there a legal step we need to take now to maintain our status or holding?
What we did is we sent those letters to take the strong position. If at this point in time, presently, we choose not to extend the agreement and we choose to hold them responsible for a breach. But that was done somewhat in a protective stance. At this point, I think the position we're in right now is the time for performance of the contract has passed. The contract has not fully been performed, so the question is, what are we going to do about that? And I think that's really the question of whether you're going to extend. And if you're going to extend, on what terms are you going to extend? I think that's the next step you need to address and make a decision on. If you reach the conclusion you're not going to extend and you're going to assert your rights based on the prior breach, then that's a path we can certainly take. If, on the other hand, you decide you will extend, we do a contract amendment, creating an extended completion date subject to whatever terms and conditions you select, then that's the path we take. So I don't think at the moment we need to do anything, but in the near future, I think this board needs to address the extension question.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions? There being none, thank you very much. Next up, Public Works, work order number 11, tasks 5 through 9, Coastal Technology Corporation, Inc., Sector 3 Beach Restoration Project, Phase 1 and Phase 2 Post-Construction Monitoring Services. Looks like Mr. Moore is going to lead us off. Nope, it's Mr. Gray again.
Okay. James Gray
Good
again.
chance on my boy.
Coastal Technology Corporation is the county's consultant for professional coastal engineering services for our Sector 3 beach restoration project. Work order number 11 to our professional services agreement provides construction and monitoring services for the Phase 1 and Phase 2 sections of the beach project. The total work order was $754,620 and includes 9 separate work order project tasks. On October 12th, 2010, the board approved only tasks 1 through 4, which were the Phase 2 construction services. This totaled $316,242, and again, this was already approved. Tasks 5 through 9 of the work order include services related to immediate post-construction of our Phase 1 and Phase 2 project areas, and totals $438,377. And these services are the subject of today's item. Back in October, October 2010, when the original work order came to the board, it was originally developed under the assumption that the entire Phase 2 project area would be completed this season. As we know, about 50% is still incomplete. Therefore, on October 5th, the board directed staff to review the original work order tasks 5 through 9 and identify any areas where reductions could be made. Following our staff's direction, staff held a teleconference meeting with Florida Department of Environmental Protection on April 12th, and following the meeting, conclusions were that monitoring is only required, post-construction monitoring is only required on the sections of the project that are completed. So therefore, staff directed Coastal Tech to reduce the scope associated with our monitoring tasks, biological monitoring in particular, and those included tasks 5 and 8 of the work order, which eliminated the monitoring for the incomplete sections of Phase 2. This reduction reduced the fees associated with tasks 5 and 8 by a total of $69,021, or approximately 13.5% from the original work order as submitted by Coastal Tech. No reductions were made to tasks, or the remaining 3 tasks, 6, 7, and 9, as these tasks are permit required and include sea turtle monitoring, beach surveying, and so forth to assess the project performance. The funding for the project is available and budgeted for in our beach preservation or beach restoration fund under Sector 3 post-construction monitoring. Currently, the county does not have any state cost share on work order number 11. However, the services identified in the work order were reviewed with department staff and have been deemed eligible for cost sharing when the department appropriates funds specifically for our Sector 3 project. The recommendation of staff is for the board to approve work order number 11, tasks 5 through 9, totaling $438,377, to contract with Coastal Tech and authorize the chairman to sign on behalf of the county. Are there any questions?
Any questions of Mr. Gray? There being none, Chair will entertain a motion. We have a motion from Commissioner Davis, a second from... Okay, a second. I know how happy we all are with this issue. So, any other discussion? Yes, Mr. Johnson. Good morning. Name and address for the record, please.
Good morning, Bob Johnson. It seems like these are unusual times. All right, we're not going to get any more money for sand dumping and what have you. If the portion of the beach that's not complete does not have any turtles nesting on it, then there shouldn't be any reason why the project can't continue to be finished if there's an exception to the rule made. So it seems like it would be appropriate to ask for an exception to the rule and finish our project and not fool around. I mean, we're not going to get any more money, next fiscal year. Plus, the county's on a different fiscal system than the state. The state's fiscal year runs from July, and ours is October. And we can see what's happening at the state level on the budgeting. So it just seems like we ought to ask for an exception to the turtle nesting situation and move forward with completing the dumping of the sand on the beach to complete the project. I mean, we're paying a lot of money for this organization to monitor, and I don't see them doing anything to help us get through and resolve some of the problems we have in the future. So that's just a consideration that I'd like to have considered. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think I can respond to that. Chris Moore, Public Works Director. Believe me, county staff would like nothing more than to stay on the beach and continue to restore the areas that weren't completed with Phase 2, but it was a strict condition of our permits from Florida Department of Environmental Protection and the additional agencies that we coordinated with, National Marine Fisheries, Corps of Engineers, and so on, Fish and Wildlife, that we had to be off the beaches May 1st. The contractor is continuing to do the dune plantings, but he cannot be down on the beach area. So like I said, we'd love to keep going, but it was a strict condition of our permit to be off the beach May 1st, and that's what we've got to do.
Thank you. Any other discussion? We have a motion from Commissioner Davis, which I seconded. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The unhappy motion passes 5-0. We'll go to work order number 18, Applied Technology and Management, Inc., Sectors 1 and 2, Beach Restoration, Post-Construction Monitoring for the summer of 2011. Mr. Gray.
Thank you. Before I go into the work order, I just wanted to give a quick summary of our previous beach project, which was our Sectors 1 and 2. This project was constructed originally in 2003. And following the hurricanes in 2004, the county actually restored our Sectors 1 and 2 project with FEMA 90% cost share. So this work order is for year 3 of the monitoring of our 2007 completed project. Applied Technology and Management is the county's consultant for professional services for our Sectors 1 and 2 beach restoration project. The proposed work order number 18 is for the services for year 3 of the permit-required post-construction biological monitoring. This does not include physical monitoring of the project, as we've already conducted our 3rd year monitoring. The total work order includes $190,008. Funding for the project is available in our Beach Restoration Fund, Sectors 1 and 2 Post-Construction Monitoring. Work order number 18 is eligible for 46.65% state cost share, excuse me, which represents about $88,639 of the $190,000 work order. So the local share to conduct the biological monitoring is a little over $101,000. And all these funds have been appropriated and are included in our existing grant agreement, cost-share grant agreement with DEP under grant agreement 07 IR3. As the biological monitoring is permit required and the county has state cost share, the recommendation of staff is for the board to approve work order number 18, totaling $190,008 to contract with Applied Technology Management, and authorize the chairman to sign on behalf of the county. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Any questions of Mr. Ray? Anybody from the public? Chair will entertain a motion.
Move staff recommendation.
Second. A motion from Commissioner O'Brien, a second from Commissioner Fletcher. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you, gentlemen. Next up, we have County Attorney's Matters, and first is a resolution relating to flavored tobacco products. Mr. Plotwich.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. The Substance Awareness Council approached, as I understand it, our chairman, with a request that the board consider a resolution urging tobacco retailers to stop selling flavored tobacco products, which, because of packaging, flavor, etc., are particularly attractive and target young people. And the Substance Awareness Council did provide a proposed resolution to do that. I made some changes to the proposed resolution, and the revised resolution is now in your package beginning at page 139. So it's now before this board for your consideration.
Thank you. And I'll just note that from my point of view, this is a move towards education rather than regulation, and there's no enforcement mechanism to it. It's simply trying to bring out publicly the fact that flavored tobacco cigarettes are not a good thing for our youth, and hope that more and more people get the message.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Davis.
Mr. Chairman, I know, as you're well aware, I'm not one much for procedures, but I'm a little taken back by how this came forward. In looking at this, the way it should have come, in my opinion, would have been under your matters, and then collectively, in the event that we wanted this to move forward, we could have done it with the majority vote of the commissioners. But in addition to that, when I look at this, it's already illegal. And I suppose, what's going to be next, maybe wine coolers or, some kind of maybe stop selling cranberry because it may be mixed with an alcoholic beverage. I mean, when you look at this, it's already illegal. And for this to come forward in this fashion, I don't agree with to begin with. And if you look at it in other terms on other issues, I just don't plan on supporting it.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Wood. I'll make a motion not to adopt the resolution, and the reasons for that is some of them Wesley mentioned. First, if they were legal, you've still got to be 18 to buy them. Secondly, over the last probably 4 or 5 decades, the use of tobacco, I would think, by juveniles has decreased and not increased. We've been on the right track. I think probably when I was in high school, 75% of the people smoked instead of 25%. I also talked to 3 different school resource officers and asked them if this was a problem or if they saw a lot of this in the schools or with the juveniles. And to the individual, I also talked to the sheriff. I also talked to a tobacco store, local tobacco store, and I also went by a couple of stores to look at the packaging and find out. And to my surprise, basically it's across the board pretty much with kids. It's regular tobacco, but primarily all 3 of them independently said Marlboro, Winston's, and Cools. And then I went on the internet and I looked and I found out that, and I don't know that this is a education problem apparently as much as it is an enforcement problem. It's another one of those laws that they pass that there's no enforcement on, because most of the stores are selling this stuff, but yet September 22nd, 2009, FDA passed a ruling and made it illegal to sell cigarettes with component parts such as that are addictive or artificial or natural flavor, and is to include herbs, spice, including strawberry, grape, orange, clove, cinnamon, pineapple, vanilla, coconut, licorice, cocoa, chocolate, cherry, or coffee. And it also, on the form, you've got a place where you can report this. There's a report form on the internet, et cetera. So it is already illegal. So I think we're being redundant. But before I found out it was illegal, I still thought it was overreaching. And if something's illegal, they should be able to sell it. If it's not illegal, this is illegal. They shouldn't be selling it. The laws are already on the books. So probably they got more education and insight to this than they planned on, even with the resolution.
Was that a motion?
Yeah.
I'll second it.
Okay, just for clarification, when it came up, Alan Blackwich asked me whether I wanted under my matters or his matters.
Fair enough.
And so I'll take full responsibility for that. You can educate me later as why it would have been more appropriate under my matters for this instance. I'll take whatever hit you want to give me on that one. I just thought it was more appropriate under attorney's matters. I just want to make sure it's not Alan.
And I appreciate that, and thank you for it. And that's not uncommon. I'll do the same if there's an issue. And I appreciate staff saying, do you want it under my matters, and I'm good with that. But in this instance, really what has happened here is, not one commissioner doesn't have the ability, in my opinion, to put anybody to work. And this should have come before us saying this is what's been asked of us, and then the three commissioners could put it, yes, we direct the county attorney to draft the resolution.
Okay.
And in addition to that, let's go ahead and take it to another step. Let's suppose this would have been a different issue on an election year, and I'm wanting to zing you pretty good. I can put a resolution up here to make you have to vote for or against on something. I mean, I don't mean to trivialize or minimize this, but I could throw out some red meat, raw politics in a hurry on this on election year and make a big issue about you voting for or against a resolution that with the language. You understand?
Well, that's fine.
What are you looking out for?
Any other comments? Anybody? We have a couple people from the public who might want to speak. Ma'am, come on up. Name and address for the record, please.
Good morning. I'm Mary Perkins, and I work with the Tobacco Free Partnership and the Substance Awareness Council, and I want to thank you first for entertaining the resolution. I just wanted to clarify that it is a resolution against all flavored tobacco products, and yes, the cigarettes are illegal, but the cigars, the cigarillos, and the snus and the snuff is not, and that's the thing that we're seeing an increase on in Indian River County, especially in the middle school population. According to the Florida Youth Tobacco Survey, the rate of the smokeless tobacco use among middle schoolers alone is double the state average, and it's also higher in the high schools. The cigarette use is declining, as you have mentioned, but we are talking more about the other products. And we were hoping to have our youth actually do a small presentation for you, but we were told it would not be scheduled until the 17th. So I'm not exactly sure the political discourse on this, but we were hoping we could still have the youth come and give you a 5-minute presentation on why we feel like it is important to just ban these flavored products, not the ones that are already banned. Or actually, we're not talking about banning them, I'm sorry, really just urging the tobacco retailers. And if this resolution would pass, we would be the 16th of all the counties to have a similar resolution.
Well, Mr. Chairman, on the middle schoolers, you have to be 8. How old do you have to be to buy tobacco?
18.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so what you're saying is the flavored smokeless tobaccos, those are on the rise in the younger ages, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. But what I'm saying is that is already illegal.
It is.
But I thought I just heard you say that it wasn't illegal.
No, I'm sorry. Yes, it's illegal for anybody under the age of 18 to buy them. Okay. And the federal government has banned flavored cigarettes, but flavoring in the smokeless tobacco products is not illegal. Okay. And that was really what the resolution was targeted at. Really just educating retailers so they know not to target the youth.
Now, on the one issue, does anybody have any objection to the SWAT, the students
working against tobacco.
Against tobacco.
absolutely not.
I just wanted to be sure before, before Commissioner Davis smacks me next week.
I'd like to see that presentation.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's the education side of it.
And that's all this resolution was meant, was to support that education side. If I did it inartfully, I beg everybody's indulgence, but I still think that just getting the word out and having the discussion is good.
Yes.
I mean, from my point of view, the whole impetus of this was to try to leave it in the parents' responsibility to make sure their children did the right thing and to get the word out to the parents and others so they'd be more aware of it. So that's...
Where it jumped that line was when you talk about not selling it or banning the sale of it, and that just...
Mr. Chairman,
take that.
If you want to revise this, I think it might be more appropriate that we pass a resolution urging the sheriff and the municipal police departments to step up their enforcement of the laws on illegal sale of tobacco to minors.
And have to start the appropriate...
I'm with you on that.
I think that is something that we can do to, instead of, if it's a retailer, they have the right to sell and market flavored tobacco products, because that's legal to an 18-year-old. So I don't think it's our position to tell them they can't market a product that's legal for the proper age group, but we can ask the sheriff and the police departments to step up the enforcement of the illegal sales to the under 18.
And I'm perfectly happy with that. So, I mean, basically, again, it's meant to be an educational tool to try to have our parents and other members of Union County do the right thing. Commissioner Willett.
Yeah, just follow up. I happen to know that, I don't know the complete frequency of it, but I do happen to know that the sheriff's office has done stings for tobacco. It's just like they've done for alcohol. People are fined, dealers $500. In fact, some of it is, they send somebody in that actually looks 18 or 20 and they aren't, and they sell them tobacco, and there's a fine. If they get somebody fined, they lose their license to sell the tobacco. And quite frankly, I know this has appeal to get rid of the flavored tobaccos, but I mean, if you wanted to send a message based on what I've learned from talking to law enforcement and school resource officers, the resolution should say basically regular tobacco or Winston's, Marlboros, and Cools, because that's what most of the kids are smoking underage. So the law's already there to prevent it, and I think it's being redundant. And to do a resolution, it'd be like doing a resolution next week that says we should ask bars to quit selling Budweiser Light because kids like Budweiser Light over something else. It's illegal to have it, it's illegal to sell it, it's illegal for kids to possess it. So it's sending them. I just think government's just too far-reaching.
Okay, so I'll be happy to entertain a motion that asks the county attorney to recraft this to focus basically on education and enforcement.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Fleischer, a second from Commissioner Davis. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Next up is exchange of Dodgetown properties with the City of Vero Beach. Mr. Plackledge.
Mr. Chairman, as you know, this issue has been before the board quite a few times in the past. Back on February 1, the board approved a property exchange agreement and authorized the chairman to sign it, in which the county would swap with the city two properties at the Dodgetown complex, with the city receiving what we all call the parking property and the county receiving what we're calling the cloverleaf property. The agreement which you approved back on February 1 had some contingencies to closing. Those contingencies, the material ones that we're talking about today, are number one, that there be an acceptable environmental assessment of the cloverleaf property which the county is receiving. That did occur. There was an environmental assessment. The material parts of that are included in your package, but generally speaking, they did not find any environmental problems on the property that we are receiving. The second contingency that you had was that we receive acceptable title information and title insurance with respect to the property we're receiving. And I might note there that we have title insurance on all of the other Dodgetown property we have, so it makes sense to, in my view, additionally insure this piece that we're getting so that the entire property we own will be subject to title insurance. Title insurance came out fine with the exception of one issue, which has been an issue right from the beginning. The property itself, Cloverleaf property, there are no significant title problems on that property that we're concerned about. However, the question of access to the Cloverleaf property, and specifically the access off Aviation Boulevard or 26th Street, that we currently use to get into Holman Stadium and get into the conference center, the same questions arose with respect to those easements that have been out there for quite some time. I have previously stated to this board that the collateral development agreement creates easements over the property called the DT Commons property, and you're all familiar with that as 26th Avenue kind of bends to the north. You've got the DT Commons property right there with the blue X on it right now. And I've told this board that while it's not perfect, the collateral development agreement has easements in it which are designed to provide access to Dodgertown. In that collateral development agreement, the DT Commons property is defined as the adjacent property. And the easements are over all streets and roadways contained on the adjacent property into Dodgertown. Well, when we did the title work, it turned out that the adjacent property, according to the title company, is not actually adjacent. That there is a thin strip between the adjacent property and Dodgertown facility, which is right along there. It's a 30-foot wide strip.
That's owned by?
Well, that becomes a question. The best knowledge I have is that it's currently owned by DT Commons itself. That strip, if I understand the title history, when the collateral development agreement was drafted, that strip was included in the legal definition of the adjacent property. The only problem was that strip was not, at that time, actually owned by the developer who owned the adjacent property. That developer later, or I can't remember if it was that developer or the subsequent developer, later transferred or gave a quitclaim deed of that property to Indian River Farms. Indian River Farms has subsequently given a deed back to that developer. You know, there's an argument to be made that since the property was originally included in the legal description, and because the property is now, in fact, owned by the same developer, then, in fact, maybe that little strip is subject to the easement. The title company doesn't buy it. Apparently, the city surveyor does buy it. The county surveyor does not buy it. The bottom line is there are issues out there that we cannot resolve in the context of this current transaction. What I did in reaction to learning about this strip was I went to the city and I said, I need your help on this. If it turns out that we lose the access for some reason off Aviation Boulevard, then we need access across the city property in some way. And to their credit, the city did step up and say, we are willing to do that. City staff did. Now, they're presenting that issue to their city council today. But that was what we were able to do. So we ultimately arrived at the conclusion that there are many arguments why you do have good easements there. You may have easements because of the title swapping back and forth, as I mentioned. You may have easements, simply prescriptive easements, based on the long use of those access areas into Dodgertown. If it all falls apart, the city is contractually agreeing to give us an easement. And lastly, if it all completely falls apart, you do have the power of eminent domain. And remember, we're only talking about these across the little 30-foot strip. So we're not talking about large pieces of property that you would have to acquire. So bottom line was, I was comfortable in the end that while we can't resolve this today, I think it is resolvable in the future no matter what happens. And I might add that DT Commons has consistently told us they will work with us to clean up this problem. The only intervening fact has been that DT Commons is also impacted by the roadway project that is in the air, and they want certain concessions on the roadway project. At this moment, we don't know if the roadway project's even going forward, so we were not able to address those issues simultaneously. So the bottom line was, I just said, well, I can't solve it today. I think we're safe in the long run, so I don't view this as a deal breaker. I will mention on the title insurance, we had to value the Cloverleaf property for the purpose of setting a premium on the title insurance. Staff, subject to board approval, valued it at $1 million, and I run through the math in my memo as to how we came to that. The premium on a $1 million valuation is $5,075. we could value it at, for example, $1.5 million, which would push the premium up by about $1,200 to $6,325. And that is a decision the board has to make today as well. Other than that, the only other change that has happened in the documents as they exist in your package is the acting city attorney asked for some final changes in the facility lease agreement, in the parking license agreement that we have. We had an indemnification provision in the parking license agreement. That indemnification agreement called for mutual indemnification. The city approached me last Wednesday and said, we actually want it unilateral. We want the county to indemnify the city, but not the city to indemnify the county. I said that would not be acceptable to me. They then asked for a change in the mutual indemnification language, basically saying, okay, we just want it to say that the city will indemnify the county arising out of the city's use of the parking property. County will indemnify the city arising out of the county's use of the parking property. That I consider acceptable. In fact, that I consider substantially equivalent to what we've had in the agreement for months prior to now. So I'm okay with that piece. We also eliminated an easement provision in the parking license agreement, and that was earlier in the negotiations, we had the parking license agreement saying that if necessary, we would have an easement for travel from the parking property to the Dodgertown property. In the end, we decided they're adjacent. We don't need that easement anyway, so we struck that out. Lastly, there are some very minor changes we're going to make to the seller's affidavits. Each of us is giving a seller's affidavit. There were some minor technical things in those that we're going to be changing. Otherwise, the transaction is as set forth in your package. And at this point, the board is now presented with whether or not these final contingencies have been satisfied, and therefore whether the board wants to go forward with the transaction to closing.
Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Blackwood?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Bryan.
Can you review the removal of that easement? Looking at the map there, and if we don't have an easement across the parking property, how do we get to the Cloverleaf property?
Well, let's see. You see on your map the parking property. Mm-hmm. Keep in mind the parking property is adjacent to the whole Holman Stadium property, which we own. So anybody can walk right from the parking property right onto the Holman Stadium property. If necessary, walk from there right onto the Cloverleaf property. That was the whole development. It's like,
I thought we need it for drainage too. You talking about the drainage easement?
No. Okay. This is just access. All the drainage easements are all preserved. Okay. Stormwater retention, things like that, that's all preserved. But given the fact that the parking property lies adjacent to the Dodgertown property, which we own, we all kind of looked at that and said, gee, we actually don't need this easement.
I guess just for vehicle access, where would it go if we don't have access across the parking property?
Helicopters.
I'm not sure I'm following that one. We have entire parking rights on the parking property.
That can be revoked.
Yes, eventually if it gets revoked, everything we're talking about on that property gets revoked, including parking, access, etc.
All right, so if they revoke that, even if we had an access easement, they would revoke that as well?
Yes, it's all part of the same license agreement.
Any other questions? Joe, did you have anything to say, Mr. Bird? No. Okay. Gentlemen?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Davis, a second from Commissioner Ruda. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any against? Passes 5-0. We had one item added, which is the conveyance of some right-of-way, and it looks like Mr. DeBral is going to lead us through that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Bill DeBral, Deputy County Attorney. Back in 2004, 2006, the county entered into a developer agreement with Vero Villages LLC to pave 37th Street between 66th Avenue and 58th Avenue. The developer was required to pave to their project entrance, which was about halfway between the two avenues. The county entered into an agreement that said, we will pay for paving of the other half, so 37th is paved all the way from 58th to 66th. The developer was also required to obtain right-of-way necessary for the project. This was a 10-foot strip of right-of-way along the north part of 37th Street and also a 15-foot utility easement. On the screen now you see the Hill property, which is about 4.74 acres in size. What happened during the dedication of the right-of-way of the Hill property is that the Hills gave us and dedicated all of their property. If you can take a look at the statutory warranty deed, Exhibit A is what they are dedicating to us. And if you take a look at Exhibit A, that legal description describes the entire Hill property. So for the past 4 years, arguably, the county has owned this property. While it was never the intent of either party to dedicate the entire part or accept the entire part, the only thing that we were discussing was the bottom 15 feet shown in crosshatch and the 10-foot right-of-way. We went ahead and filed a corrective deed a couple of years back to try and remedy the problem, but we have never gone ahead and reconveyed the property back to the Hills. Now that they are trying to sell the property, obviously they want to clear title to the property. In order for us to be able to do this, what we will do is go ahead and convey the property back to the Hills, less than accept the 10-foot right-of-way strip. That will clear property as far as the sale is concerned. Along with this, remember that there was also a dedication of easement for utilities, sidewalk, and drainage. Again, the same mistake occurred there, where the easement covered the entire 4.74 acres rather than just the 15 feet near 37th Street that was necessary. So we're going to be asking the chairman to also sign a release of that easement as to the majority of the property, less than accept that 15 feet that you can see on the monitor there at the very southern end of the property. In order to make sure that this is done correctly and that it's explained in the public records, I've drafted a resolution that we're asking the chairman to sign that explains what happened in this matter, so that if there are any questions as far as future title, it will be explained on the public record. The closing on this matter is set for Thursday the 5th, so there is some urgency here. We certainly appreciate the commission taking this matter on such a short notice, but it will assist greatly in the closing of the property at hand here with two local attorneys, Barry Siegel and Chris Campagnone. So we'd ask that the chairman be authorized to sign both the release of easement, the county deed that's prepared, and also the resolution. In my research so far, I found one other property that has the same kind of problem with it, where an incorrect conveyance was made to the county, and that will have to be corrected also in the near future. Are there any questions?
We have a motion from Commissioner Davis. Is there a second?
So moved.
We have a second from Commissioner Fletcher. Commissioner O'Brien.
Yeah, Bill, under your backup, you have here funding, and funding for this expenditure will come from secondary roads, et cetera. What are we paying?
Recording costs.
Okay.
It'll probably be less than $50.
Okay, all right.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, if I could just make a comment here. Earlier in the day, you passed a proclamation recognizing public employees who, by their example of their achievements, are focusing on the highest standards of customer service. I think that's what's really happening here. We got a call last week from, I think, the property owner's attorney saying we've got to close this thing this week. And Bill was out on Friday taking a vacation day, and I didn't have much background on this, but I said, well, let me talk to Bill on Monday and see if we can make this happen in his emergency item on today's agenda. So I did talk to Bill, and Bill said yes, he would do that, and he cleared his desk yesterday to make this happen, and the chairman agreed to bring it forward as an emergency item. And I think we did a good job for the citizens, or for this particular citizen, by making this happen on quick notice so they can go forward with their closing.
Good job.
Agreed.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Bill, and the legal department.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? We have a motion from Commissioner Davis, second from Commissioner Fletcher. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much. Next up is an item under my matters, and it just deals with transparency and our website. Some people might remember about 4 or 5 weeks ago, our website got a grade of a B-, and when looking into it, it was basically because of either things that the grader didn't find or something like lobbying, where we didn't have a lobby, but the fact that we didn't say that we didn't have a lobbyist on the website knocked our grade down. Well, I want to congratulate staff in addressing that immediately. The organization that gives us the grade has already regraded us and given us an A+. And I think that's, again, a great work by our staff for doing what I think is keeping us transparent, which is the right thing in Florida at this time.
You know, one of the things I find interesting about that is that, and I realize that we're a public entity, and the newspaper's private, but it's even much more public than we are, but their transparency is lacking considerably compared to government.
And I'm not going to worry about others. I just want to make sure our own house is in order.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And thanks to our staff.
And we were graded without a curve.
That doesn't need a motion or anything. Next up, Commissioner Peter O'Brien, Chinese drywall ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Requesting consideration of the board to consider creating an ordinance to provide some short-term relief for homeowners that can't live in their homes due to Chinese drywall. After the 2004 hurricanes, we did a similar type ordinance to waive the collection of the base charges for homeowners that couldn't live in their homes due to storm damage. According to the property appraiser's office, there is Florida statutes that provide for some tax relief based upon whether a home is 40% discount for homes that are affected, but the resident can still live in the house, and then 100% discount on taxable value if the home is severe enough that the homeowner cannot live in the house. So what I'm proposing to the board for your consideration is an ordinance to waive the utility base charge for those homes that are that reach 100% waiver where the homeowner cannot live in there due to the Chinese drywall, and that the waiver be limited to 6 months. And this would, I know it's not a lot of money to these homeowners, but it's kind of like they're down, and by charging them a base fee for something they can't use, it's kind of like kicking them while they're down. So make that motion. And what's our base charge?
Can I just say, I think we should pay it out. We'll waive it, but we'll pay it out of the general fund. I think we have to pay it or we're getting a problem with our ordinance. We'll pay it out of the general fund. It's going to be nominal.
Why would we pay it out of the general fund instead of the utilities fund?
Because in the utilities, we charge every under-base facility under an ordinance if you've got capacity. So you'd be exempting. I'd rather just, like we do when we have other things, like when we tear down a house, we always take out of the general fund and do it. If it's what I call a social decision rather than an economic decision that violates your ordinance, I'd suggest that I think we should do it. This is getting into the accounting of it, that we'll go ahead and pay those out of the general fund. They'll be minor, and it just keeps us with our rate ordinance.
I don't think it's a large number of homes.
It's going to be a very small number, but I think just to keep us proper accounting-wise and legal.
I'm sure if they look at our ratings such as that, whenever they look at the utility, all right, everybody has paid, versus they waived it for this one, that one, the other one. And so in this instance, everybody would have paid.
It's going to be minor. We're not worried about it. I just want to clarify that.
I would add this as well. Back in 2004, when you did the hurricane issue, you actually did it by policy, rather by adoption of a policy, rather than by amendment to an ordinance. And I think in this case, we're talking about something limited duration, not a substantial financial impact. I think it would be better to do it down that same path rather than spend the money to publish notice of amending your ordinance, in which case you may spend as much in publication costs as we're talking about here. So
I'm good with that, if the board is.
Yeah.
It's the base fee is
28.
I thought it was 15 for some reason.
I think it's $12.79, but I'm not sure about that.
$1.86
For the 6 months?
$26.
$26.
$7.76 plus $14.70.
That's what I was thinking.
It's water, it must be water and sewer. It's water and sewer.
Is it water and sewer?
The water and sewer more often.
And 1470 is water?
That's sewer. And
Sewer?
7.76 is water.
Base charge.
And multiply that by the amount of affected parties and 6 months limited. Right.
Okay, okay, so we'll amend it that we adopt this as policy and do it for 6 months and pay the, whatever the charges are that we're not charging the homeowner to be paid out of the general fund.
motion from Commissioner O'Brien, second from Commissioner Davis. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Passes 5-0.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Move on to special districts and boards.
Mr. Chairman, I move the approval of the minutes of February 15th, 2011, and March 8th, 2011.
A motion from Commissioner O'Brien, a second from Commissioner Wheeler. All in favor? Aye. Passes 5-0. I'm sorry, was that both minutes or just the one?
Both minutes. Just
both.
And next is a rejection of bids for bid number 2011026 and amendment number 2, work order number 9, to Camp Dresser and McKee for engineering services related to the new Oslo Customer Service Convenience Center. Good morning, Himashi.
Good morning, Commissioners. Monster Method Solid Waste Disposal District. We've been working on the design and construction of a new facility for the Oslo Convenience Center, and this facility is 23 years old. It's one of our highest used facilities, and we did a small traffic study, and there are about 900 cars per day that visit that facility. So for a number of years, we using a team of our engineers with CDM and John Dean Architects, we've gone through the design, the permitting process to build a new facility. And one of the things we decided to do is Swid owns property there on the Old Dixie site, and so we decided to keep the existing facility running, build a new facility out there, and our intent was to build a similar facility like Fellsmere and use that as our model. Now, that facility was about $2.1 million, and recognizing that the facility at the Oslo site is going to be built on an old dump site, we factored in a few additional dollars in the range of about $2.5, $2.6 million. We went out to bid on January 4th, 2011. We received about 7 bids on March 4th, 2011. The lowest preliminary bidder for that was Barth Construction, and the price came in at $3.5 million. The bids ranged from $3.5 to $4.4 million for the project. We had our engineers, CDM, do a bid evaluation of the bids. And one of the things that they identified is the driven pile system, the structural elements of what the Fellsmere facility is an elevated structure, a concrete structure, using the walking floor trailers, type of approach. That's what resulted in a construction bids that are way beyond our budget. And so staff continues to support the need for a new facility at that site. We continue to support that we need to, instead of buying new property somewhere else, continue to support building a facility in that area. However, the economics of building a facility like Fellsmere is not going to work at this site. One of the things that CDM has done is in their preliminary evaluation, as they proposed in this amendment number 2, is looking at a feasibility study or an evaluation of an alternative design. And one of the things that they've identified is a flat, on-grade facility. One of the counties, Marion County, what they do there, they have convenience centers, and they use compactors. They use compactors for the garbage that comes into that facility. And so the facility is flat on the ground. We at CDM kind of evaluate the tonnages that they're having at their facility compared to the tonnages we're going through Oslo. They're very similar, and they're estimating that the cost would be back down in the range of about less than $2 million. So one of the things that we're recommending is to reject the bids for the project, consider an amendment to the current work order in the amount of about $13,855 to do an alternative evaluation, continue to consider the same site, consider building a new facility. One of the advantages of that is that we have secured all the permits for that facility. There will be some re-permitting, some redesign that would have to come through this effort. However, if we keep the kind of the impervious area same, we think we could kind of, again, take advantage of the cost that we've put in so far for the project and continue with trying to, accommodate a facility for the residents in that area. And so again, staff is recommending rejection of the bids and is recommending approving the amendment number 2 to work order number 9 to CDM in the amount of $13,855. Happy to answer any questions.
Second, I do have some discussion.
There's a motion from Commissioner Fletcher, second from Commissioner Davis. Commissioner Davis.
Yes, Marcia. With the style that we have in Fellsmere versus the style that you're talking about, are you talking about looking at a duplicate, or basically needing separate machinery or equipment to be able to, is that the smart way to go? I mean, it may be the cheapest thing we could do versus changing equipment around would be to go ahead and build a facility that is, I guess you could say, a universal fit.
Right, and that's why we started with the Fellsmere design. We felt that that was going to be our model. That was going to be what we were going to use to improve all of our facilities, in the next 5 to 10 year horizon. It's working well at Fellsmere. It really is. The residents really like it. It's accommodating. The loop is very functional, and it's working well there. But unfortunately for the site that we have there, because we have old garbage at this facility, the Oslo site, we needed to enhance the structural elements of that concrete structure. And the piling system that we had, that resulted, I think the piles alone were about $2 million.
Right.
So that's where the cost just outweighs proceeding with this project.
Would it be prudent for us to look at modifying then Fellsmere to fit the rest of them countywide? I mean, as we move forward with a system, if it's going to be compactors, then is there an opportunity for Fellsmere to be under the compactor system then that you're talking about versus just having that one with the only the rolling stock that fits one of our convenience centers?
Sure. One thing there, I would think right now would be a little premature because we don't know what all of the elements required for this compactor design. So what we're proposing is to do this feasibility study, come back to you in about 3 months, and give you some more information as to what would be the design, the cost of this compactor type of approach. Sure. And then if the board would like to proceed, then we would do an additional engineering basically and permitting scope to CDM to go out to bid for that type of a design. We would see what those construction costs would come in. Again, we're anticipating that would bring us back to below $2 million for this compactor type of design. If that is successful in terms of what we're projecting the costs and whatnot to be, eventually you could consider the future of Fellsmere where you may want to accommodate some sort of a compactor type design. At this time, I would think it'd be premature in terms of, we don't know what we're getting into. I believe that the space we have there, again, we'd have to redesign Fellsmere to look at that. We would have a better idea later on down the road if we do proceed in this direction for Oslo as to what would be involved in terms of setting up compactors on top of the Fellsmere facility.
And I'm assuming we've already asked the engineers, and not being a structural engineer myself, but I'm assuming the only way to accomplish what needs to be done there is with the pylon design?
Yes.
No other way, no other engineering method?
I do have our engineers here. They can certainly talk more about it, but they looked at different pile type systems that are available out there and the size of the concrete structure that we had. Again, the settlement that would occur on old degraded waste is what, and again, we were hoping that this facility would last 20-25 years. Okay. So that's what resulted in the bids being so high.
Right.
Commissioner Bryan? Yeah, Himanshu, the back it looks like we have about $338,000 already committed to do the engineering for the proposed facility. Do we have any idea what the redesign and re-engineering and re-permitting cost will be? Because I know that the $14,000 is just for the feasibility, but, you know, if we're looking at another $300,000 to redesign and re-engineer, well, that gets us closer to the, you know, the budget number, and is it better to spend a little bit more and build a facility that's consistent with Fellsmere than to try to redesign, re-engineer, and now we have two systems? I don't want to have to come back and spend another $300,000 to re-engineer and redesign something, so maybe we can lower price.
Eric Brock is here with CDM. One of the things so far on that $300,000, that did include construction services, so we're probably in the $200,000 range so far in terms of design, permitting, and procurement services.
Okay.
And what we were, the anticipation was we'd come back to you in 3 months with a feasibility study in terms of how does the approach look, and also with a work order for CDM to do that design and re-permitting. So you would have another opportunity to see what those costs were at that time, to see, do you want to go forward with re-permitting and redesigning with an alternative style, or proceed with a similar option.
But again, we're being asked to reject the bid.
Yes.
So then we would have to go out to rebid, I guess, if we decide.
That's correct.
Jim, is there, Mr. Block, Mr. Chairman? Mr. Block, is there a window here in which we can hang on to this bid for a while to see if there's a better, cheaper way of doing it? Because if we reject it, then go back out again, then we very well maybe have to go through the permitting process because of the delay in time, versus just kind of put this on hold, let them do another study for $13,000 to see if there's, to see really which way is cheapest, just like Commissioner O'Brien said.
I think it is accurate that our bids are only good for 60 days.
I would say 60 or 90 days.
Okay, there is a time frame in the bid document.
March 4th.
60 days from March 4th.
Yeah, I want to say it's 90, but we can confirm that.
What happens in the event that we don't accept or reject the bid within that 60-day period?
We can certainly go to the low bidder and ask them if they will extend their bid. That's one we're within that time frame to maybe ask them that.
Yeah, the concept is they have bid X dollars, that their commitment to provide the project at X dollars is limited in time, because the longer you stretch it out, conditions can change. They can't no longer be held to that price. You could go to them and say, look, I know the bid was good for 60 or 90 days. We want to look at this. Will you extend the bid until, you know, pick another 90 days, 180 days total? If they're agreeable, then you can generally do that.
I think that would be the prudent thing to do.
Yeah.
Just do the second half of staff recommendation.
Okay.
And then, because it very well may be the cheapest thing to do in the long run.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Hamacho, have you, in Marion County, the one you use as an example, are they all compact? Do they have elevated and compact? Do they have a mixed system?
I have some pictures, if I can just show you real quick. They're using 4 compactors. This is a flat grade facility. And talking to the director there, they actually have probably 3 operating at a time, and then it allows one to be empty so that they can change it out. This is primarily for garbage. And one of the things that they have is more of a rural community for yard waste. They're actually allowing residents to dump it in a corral, if you will, and then they use a clam bucket to basically go pick that up. So that, let me show you a close-up picture.
Well, just where you had that, if that's my pickup truck there,
It is.
and is it?
That's too new.
Yeah, that looks too good for my truck.
Too clean for mine.
And I've got a load of garbage back there. How do I get it from the bed of the truck into the compactor?
Let me show you.
Okay.
Here's just a kind of a close-up of the compactor where the car is, and let me show you a side view of. So it's It is, in terms of where the wall is, like at the Fellsmere right now, residents are picking it up over the wall and throwing it into the container. This is pretty much about the same height for safety reasons, where they would still have to pick it up and put it into this open area. One of the things we obviously, as Republic Services operates our convenience centers right now, we've had some preliminary discussions with them. We've met with it so happens the compactor company that we met with is the provider for Marion County, and we're looked at possible provisions of even adding some safety factors, to this. But basically, the resident drops the material off, pushes a button, and it goes into the hopper.
I still have a couple questions.
Sure.
Is this universal throughout the county, or do they have a different, two questions. One, is this universal? In other words, and two, would there be a large operation or an operational cost difference which would increase if you had two systems, one with this on a flat surface and one where you were able to put up the elevated system?
Yeah, one of the things obviously is electrical cost and whatnot. When Republic Services bid on the convenience centers, they bid on assuming we were keeping the same type of operations. And, right now, a lot of the telephone, water, electric for those convenience centers are part of their bid cost. So it would certainly be reasonable for, if the county was going to change a facility and have more electrical uses, it'd be reasonable for them to request, additional cost for operating such a facility.
Well, we'd have to.
Yeah,
you have to take one into consideration.
And not only that, but if that was a consideration, you have to consider it across the board if you were going to change Fellsmere. I guess where I'm at is, I don't understand your business, obviously. So if you have one that's a compactor because we can build it cheaper, and then the others that are elevated because they work well, in other words, both work well, so does it cost more to operate a collection system with compact and elevated, or would you save money if it was all elevated, or would you save money if it was all compact as far as operation goes? I don't see why you couldn't have two systems unless there's a whole other thing out there that would create a large expense.
Marion County's been doing this for many years, and they're switching over to these compactor type facilities. We've gotten some data in terms of their operational costs. And again, that was the idea on the feasibility studies, to bring you more data, bring you more information on what it's going to take to build and design and construct the facility, what it's going to take to operate it. And we can additionally factor in Republic Services in terms of what impact would that be to their contractual operations in that feasibility analysis when we come back. So at least we give you some information related to that as well. One of their operational costs is the tractor trailers, is their fuel costs. The number of loads that you have to go on an open-top trailer or open-top roll-off, you minimize in terms of the compactors. You can probably get, 4, 5, 6 times the amount in a compactor than you would in an open-top type of an operation.
Well, I think anytime you build something, it's the operation that's the expense, not the construction.
Sure.
I know with the jail, it's just phenomenal what it costs, or the fire stations, what it costs to operate them. So, but I guess my bottom line is, I just want to know, what the operational expense is compared with the cost. So, and you'll have that for us in a few months.
Why don't we bring this back, because if you've got this first question about rejecting the bids and stuff, why don't we bring this back in a week or two?
Okay.
Well, I don't mind approving the 13,000.
Yeah.
We still need to, I think, to do that.
If Commissioner Fletcher just changed his motion to approve recommendations B and I guess that should be C, which is to approve the amendment for the feasibility study and authorize the chairman to execute the...
I'd like to change it just a little bit more than that. What I'd like to see is basically, instead of reject the bid, ask if we can extend the bid and then approve B and C.
I think what Commissioner Baird and Commissioner O'Brien, Mr. Baird and Commissioner O'Brien were basically saying was that we're not going to reject the bid and bring it back next week to see.
I mean, since March 4th, fuel prices have probably gone up a little bit.
You're asking us to table this for 2 weeks?
Yeah, let's table this. I mean,
let's go ahead and I'll move the table.
The whole thing?
So it's tabling the whole, okay.
Table, this way we can identify to see if
we want to move forward with
it can
it.
be extended.
I think we're going to table action on the bid, but move forward with the feasibility study, get that going. That's
Where I am right now,
That's the
somebody
intention.
brought me out.
That's
That's the
Commissioner
intention.
Wheeler was saying something else, so we just want to get clarity on it. So I'll ask for Commissioner Fletcher to restate the motion.
The motion will be to table the bid and extend the fee for service so that we can continue the evaluation process.
Okay. All right.
So we're basically going to table the bid, but go ahead with the staff recommendation regarding the approved amendment for number 2 for $13,855 for additional engineering services.
Yeah.
Yes. I just want, okay, so there's a motion from Commissioner Fletcher, second from Commissioner Davis. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Gentlemen, there being no other business for the Board of County Commissioners, we adjourn.